Hey coaches, on this week's episode of the show, we are going to take a look at the 4-vert concept, a lot of times called 6 in the air raid system, and a couple different variations. One here starting with kind of a base version from LSU and then taking a little look at it in a Canadian context with both some cut-ups from last year's season at Laurier as well as some Cambridge Lions stuff for high school coaches. So one of the things I really like about this concept is there's a lot of different ways you can personalize it, make it your own. Run it out of a variety of sets, but you're really stressing the defense vertically and giving your receivers options to take advantage of the space that they're being given. So I'm going to roll this through, and you're going to get a look at how LSU does it. So starting with the two seam runners who are critical on this play, you have your seam post read and your seam dig read. Again, you could get into how many options you want your guys to have. We ran it last year in Cambridge with what we call a lock seam instead of a post. But here they run it with the option for that number 2 receiver in the boundary to run a post route if the middle of the field is open or if he's capped vertically. And the player of the field can run it with a dig 12 to 14 yards depending on your depth if those guys are capped. So if vertically they cannot get on top of their defender within the timing of the route. The second aspect of 6 is you're going to see the outside guys have the stop or fade options. Okay, their defenders are capping them vertically. They're on top, so they're going to hook it up. Okay, and now present the target to the quarterback. Great quick game option there available in this play as well. You can also throw the fade. Really, for me, I like to be able to throw that off of a punch one. And then if the DBs are able to adjust and take away both the fade and the stop option, then you carry out the rest of your punch 3 and work the seam or the lock seam or post seam to the boundary and then back to the field to the seam dig. You'll see they run it with a little spot bang route from the inside slot. So the boundary half caps the vertical. He goes to the post. Right, we see the field side defender is locked in on the field seam here. And they're able to throw this post in behind the linebackers and in front of the safety. If this safety was taking away the middle of the field, now we wouldn't have this spot to throw the post. And now our seam dig would make his read off this defender. So here they throw that first read, which is the post seam, and they're able to get it in the end zone. So just taking a look at this again, you can read this. I would teach my quarterback, we call these gift routes. So I would say here, even though it ends up being a 60-yard touchdown, we want to take these gifts when we have them. Right, so we see the stop. If the ball's out right now, we have some easy completions there. Those are pre-snap to like a punch step read. Right, you're going to get your foot on the ground and throw it now. If you're not going to take a gift, you're going to work that lock seam or post seam to the seam dig, and then depending on what route you have your other guy run, here it's a bang. You're going to work down to that. So let's look at this in a Canadian context. We were running this out of 2-back. We would actually have our fullback or tight end run what we call the witch route. So he would work from the what we call the lock seam, okay, which is this boundary seam, working up that boundary hash. He would work underneath the read seam. Okay, so what that would give us is a high-low on that flat defender, and then our outside guys are working their gift routes. So that gives us a chance to stretch the field horizontally and vertically with those 4 verts. So we would tell the quarterback this. We're going to look at our gift routes first. If we have a gift we like, we're going to take it, whether that's the stop or the fade. Once we understand that we don't have that, we're going to look to this lock seam And if that gets taken away, we now read out the read seam. And with the ability for him to run the in, right, simply being in quarters, taking away this hash, doesn't leave that guy out of options. He can now settle in on top of the linebackers, and then we have our underneath route coming back underneath him. Now here, and the quarterback's footwork's not perfect, but we see the ball get out quick. We're actually taking the fade option on this gift. So we have, a defender that's playing low and inside, right? We're now going to convert to the fade. He sees that the high player on that side's tucked in. He gets the ball out early, beats him there with the throw, right? And we end up with, a pretty easy touchdown. That's an early pre-snap read really for the quarterback, right? That if that boundary halfback were to get over top, right, now we have access to the seam. If this middle safety or free safety takes that away, now we should have the opposite hash open, okay? And even if they're able to take all of that away, we can still turn this into a dig high-low to the field. So we're able to catch that gift route and take that to the house. So here's another example. Okay, we're in 22 again. Our fullback is going to release and run that under route underneath the read seam. Whatever you do, we saw LSU run it with a bang under that read seam. Again, you want the option underneath the dig. Okay, we have our two gifts on the outside. Here's our lock seam, or the LSU ran it with the post option. Okay, and then here's our read seam with that dig option on the front side. So we see here we get cover 3. Our quarterback should be looking boundary first. I don't like that he takes the hitch because he makes it a longer throw, but I do like how he reads, okay, this guy's running that vertical, he's uncapped, safety's in the middle of the field, we're going to take this shot all day. We're able to go up, make a great play, get in the red zone. So those are some cut-ups of what we call full field 6. We ran that out of a number of different formations. There was mostly at a 2-back with our high school guys in the summer. Here's a look at some spread options. And one thing I like about this play is once you teach the concept, there's a lot of wrinkles. One of the things we like to do with the Laurier is actually just run it as a half field concept. So we would run our lock seam from number 3. He's going to work across the face of the safety and try and attack this other hash. And we would run our read seam from our number 2. Our widest guy still has his gift option. Okay, and oftentimes we would work the back in a check release back underneath that read seam to still give you that high-low. And then we would run a quick game concept in the boundary. So double stops, could run smash, double slants, fade out. We'd run a ton of those different quick game concepts. So here, we see the quick game concept in the boundary, right? That fade out. They go 3-on-2 to that combination in the boundary. So you see here, the boundary, the will ends up low out on number 2, okay, and they're all over those boundary routes, all right, with a pre-snap 3-on-2. So our quarterback is able to reset to the field. The free safety is taken to this hash by the lock seam runner. Okay, and our read seam runner is able to now get on top, catch that ball in the seam, touchdown. So we would call that half field 6. And really it's the same teaching, right? Except now instead of this guy, and when you pause it here, you can really see it. Instead of that lock seam, it's a bad drawing. Instead of that lock seam getting to the boundary hash from that side, they're just getting there from the number 3 to the field. And now our number 2 is still attacking that same landmark with the dig option. Okay, we were able to get several touchdowns off that half field 6 concept last year. Here's another one, very similar. Here we're actually running a double move. So this became a pretty big part of what we would do just in terms of quick game, is we would throw quick game to the field with 2 receivers. So very common for us, we'd run double slant. All right, and then we would run that 3-man 6 behind it. Okay, here we actually go sluggo. So we're going slant and go. All right, they're playing a quarters look. So normally if you were to run a double move here, right, and again, we're going to swing the back, get the back out under that read seam so that we can high-low the linebacker if we're forced to run the in. Here, we got one of the best players in the conference running this double move. So they're all over it. Again, 3-on-2 to the quick game, right? And they're giving up ground. They're playing quarters. Okay, no chance to throw the sluggo. So our quarterback resets. Now, really, this guy should be working more, okay, to that middle of the field towards the opposite hash to put this high player in more of a bind, okay? But we see here how he gets a little flat-footed looking at that vertical, and it allows the read seam runner to come clean in that seam on the backside. So from a read standpoint for the quarterback, the other option is we do have the gift out here. We happen to run this as a 10-yard out. It's not a bad idea either if you want to throw that because, again, you're at the sticks here. But the quarterback knows 3-on-2, he's off this. Right now he's going to read, does anyone take away that lock seam? Free safety does. Now we're going to high-low, right, that read seam to the bubble if we don't like this pre-snap gift. Okay, so let's say that, as we run the vertical, okay, this player did a little better job of staying on top of that. Then we'd run the in, and now you're going to see the high-low from the back, okay, to do what would be this dig route. Ultimately, again, we get another 2nd and long explosive play. Look at this last one, you get a good example, what we mean by the gift. So again, 2 of the best receivers in the conference here playing to the 2 receiver side. So they're getting lots of respect coverage-wise, right? This corner is really playing off. So we have a 4 verts concept on here. All right, we're actually running our lock seam over here. And our tight end is running the under route. This would have been our read seam, which gets jammed up pretty good. Okay, but we see out here we have tons of space. We're going to take that throw off of punch one, get it out, catch and get up the field. Ends up being like a 20-plus yard play almost. We take an 8-yard hitch. I think we end up with 18. All right, so that's the benefit of the gift, right, for the quarterback. We're able to make that throw. Now, let's say they were baiting us and he drove it, right? Now we're going to get this guy as a seam player, right? That should take him off the board. Worst comes to worst, even if they're able to now cover down on that, we're going to bend it and have the high-low option here on the linebacker. So looking at this concept from an X's and O's standpoint, depending on the level you're at and the amount of option routes you want, how you want to run the reads for the quarterback, it presents a lot of options. I love it out of 23 in the Canadian game. There's just so much space to the field. So you're going to have your 2 gift routes on the outside. Again, stop, fade. You saw examples of getting big plays out of those, whether it was the fade from the summer football clip I showed, or, backing the defense off with the vertical options and then being able to throw the stop in front and get easy completions, move the football. Both present good options. Away from the 3 receiver side, or really away from to the side that you bring the 5th receiver, you're going to have your read seam. Okay, and what we call our lock seam. Okay, or you could call a post seam option if you wanted it to. Okay, so these are pre-snap or one-step throws. Okay, that we're getting the ball out. Once we clear those, we're going to try and start our read okay, on the lock seam. So that's going to be our third step of our drop. All right, off of punch 3. Again, we're going to throw punch 1 to the hitches, or to the stop routes or fades on the outside. We're going to be 3 plus a hitch then to our read seam. So let's say, we got a cover 1 situation. So we started our read on the lock seam. All right, but we see that the halfback takes that away. Maybe our eyes on that side brings the free safety over there. Then we're going to come back to our read seam. All right, and hopefully throw that haymaker down the seam. If that gets covered, right, we're going to work back down to our under, okay, which will throw off a 3 hitch, okay, and then potentially off that hitch, depending on the timing, or with a reset. If we're able to, we can also get to the check down from the back. So kind of working 1, 2, 3, 4, with these guys being pre-snap or almost immediately post-snap on the read. Okay. If we get a zone coverage situation, all right, let's say the halfback is able to cap this route. We didn't like one of the gifts. Okay, say it's a quarters defense, and the free safety is able to cap this seam. Right, you're probably getting the corner and the free safety taking these vertical routes off the board. All right, your halfback pushes out. Okay, now we're going to get that high-low where this Sam has to either get underneath number 3, okay, or he puts the Mac in a tough coverage position on this receiver running the crossing route. So that'd be like a full field 6. Again, lots of different ways you could run it formationally. We were running it at a 2-back. Laurie, you saw there, we had a lot of success at a 23. The other thing that we did is we would run it as a half field concept. So we would run quick game to the field. So we loved one really good one, was just double slants for us. So we would go 23, put the defense in a bind. We would often give the X the opportunity to, if he had space, he could just stay out in that space and we'd make that one-step throw. Okay, but we put the defense in a bind. Lots of teams, you're going to see, they got to choose whether they're going to Sam over or how they're going to defend the trips. But if we saw 3-on-2, right, we knew based on leverage we might have a chance to make that throw, but we're probably now going to take those 3 off the board. With the quick game concept, again, it could be, out fade, whatever the quick game concept you want it to be, double stops. And then we would run our lock seam across the face of that free safety. Our read seam, again, with the option to hook it up. And our gift. Okay, and then most cases we'd find a way to check release the back into the boundary. So sometimes the back would be on this side, and he would run kind of a check like that to get underneath it. Either way, we want something underneath the will. So if we get 3-on-2, the field side's dead, right? And then this is where we saw those touchdowns come in. Free safety gets dragged into the middle of the field by that route. Corner or half, who's ever the high player, gets stuck on the fade, okay? And then that opens up this read seam opportunity. And even if you get a team like that, is playing quarters and doing a nice job of it. All right, so say we wind up working this side and say they play cut. They really don't want to give up that 4 verticals. Okay, and they're able to carry with this. They take it away. The boundary half stays on top, and the free safety plays with that to the field. Okay, now we still have this high-low. So as the will drops, he's got to choose, okay, am I going to get, my eyes and run underneath this bender, okay? Or am I going to kind of 70-30, which is what they'll probably be trying to do with this swing route. We just found that they really struggle with that. We threw this a lot in practice, real through the back, okay? And now as the wheel drops, he's either getting influenced down by the back and we're able to make the throw in this window, or he takes away that window and we get an easy dump off to our running back and end up getting, 8 to 10 yards on a simple completion that way. So lots of opportunities with it. I think it's a great install because you get kind of a ton of plays. If you're running, 2 or 3 quick game concepts, and then this is your 4 vert, you really have a lot of utility in different ways that you can dress it up to get a ton of good looks. The other thing we did out of it, which we did in the summer as well with my high school guys, is we would throw double moves. So we could go out of 23, and we could run our stop and go, right? And then run the 3-man version, the bender option, okay? Or we could run, a full field 6. In the summer, we would just call 6 and go, where we would line up and we would run 6, but we'd run it with our extra receiver. Instead of running that gift, he'd run the stop and go. So you could still have 6 everywhere else. Except now your quarterback, is really going to start his read with the double move and then work 1, 2, 3, 4, and if you can, to the back as a check release number 5. Still with the option to throw the gift to the field. So if you're throwing stops, slants, and fade out as your quick game, and then you're working 4 verts, if you work in the stop and go, you really get a number of variety of plays you can work in. Same thing, you go sluggo, you go wheel route off the fade out, just a ton of options.